Greetings! Today we're going to talk about evaluating web resources for research. Let's start by going to the Hancock College library homepage. You can get there a number of different ways, including by going to hancockcollege.edu and by clicking on the gray bar on the top on the word library. You can also get there by going to your My Hancock portal, and in the portal, click on the library icon. They will all take you to the same location. If you are accessing the library's resources from off campus, remember to log in to your My Hancock portal. This will give you full access to all of our digital resources, including ebooks, articles online, streaming educational films, and more. If you have any questions about library resources or getting started on your research, please chat with a librarian. You can chat with a librarian 7 days a week during the regular fall and spring sessions. We also have chat and in-person hours during the summer session. Always check the library homepage for current hours and any updates. Our spring hours are listed below for the Santa Maria campus and the LVC campus. Our chat hours may also differ between semesters, so please do make sure to double check those hours. As long as it says available in green and white, you are free to go ahead and chat live with a librarian. All you have to do is click in the box where it says type here to chat, press enter to send. You can enter your message such as, "Hello, I am looking for information on," and then add your topic here. The librarian will usually respond within just a minute or two, and they may ask you further questions such as what type of resources you're looking at, how current the information needs to be, and more. If you need research help outside of our building hours and our live chat hours, you can also text a librarian at 855-512-2275. Even if you send us a text message outside of the chat and regular service hours, we will respond to you just as soon as we open once more. Today we'll be focusing on evaluating web resources, but an excellent place to start for any research topic is by first going to the library and seeing what information is available through the catalog, or in the print collections, or on the databases. A helpful reason to start with the library first is that the information contained within the library materials has already been confirmed and has been checked to be of a quality level. Once you move outside of resources housed within the library, then we have a whole new set of questions we need to ask about the resources. A very helpful way to get started is by going to the library homepage and scrolling down to Research on the left, and then click on the link that says Library Research Guides, LibGuides. LibGuides are guides to different topics, including broad topics such as research and more narrow topics such as research in literature, art history, biology, nursing, and much more. You can go and browse these guides by subject. You can click on All Guides. There are currently 70 guides. You'll see there are guides to the Streaming Film Database, Academic Video Online. There are guides for APA citation, guides on avoiding plagiarism, research, globalization, information literacy, leadership, and much, much more. Now we're going to look at the research process guide. So if you scroll down to R for research process, you'll see here a general overview of different ways to approach research. These are helpful questions to ask, such as, what do you already know about your topic? What do you want to know? Finding resources. We're going to click on step 5, evaluate and repeat. And we're going to look at what's called the CABLE method. And CABLE is an acronym that we can use when we are evaluating web resources. We want to evaluate web resources to ensure that we are using current, credible, and accurate information in our research. Let's look at what the acronym CABLE stands for. C stands for currency. So you want to ask yourself questions such as, when was this website created? When was this website published? When was it last updated? Are links to other sites and resources on the website still active? If the links are no longer active, or if this website has not been updated in quite some time, then that's a sign that perhaps this web resource does not have currency. It does not have the most up-to-date, accurate information, and thus you probably do not want to use this as a web resource. Next, let's look at the A in CABLE, and the A stands for authority. This is when we want to ask ourselves, who made this web resource? Who wrote the pages? If you're evaluating a whole website with multiple pages, ask yourself, who wrote the pages on the website? If you're only evaluating one page on a website with multiple pages, then ask the same question about the unique page you're looking at. Other questions to ask when establishing authority include, what are the credentials of the author? If you're researching a topic such as organic farming, and you find a website that talks about the benefits of organic farming or downsides of organic farming, but it does not tell you who is writing this information or what their expertise is, then you may want to reconsider using this website. If you're looking up information on a web resource and the information sounds good, you want to make sure that it is accurate, because even if you find information that sounds good and it supports your point of view, you still have the responsibility of checking that this information is correct. Credentials refer to someone's training, whether professional or academic, and the expertise that they have on the topic. So if you're researching the topic of organic farming, you're going to want to find a web resource written by someone who has credentials such as advanced degrees in agriculture or viticulture or biology. You want to look for someone who has some experience with organic farming. So someone who has been working in agriculture for some years, or someone who has worked in agribusiness, or someone who is closely affiliated with agriculture and has a depth of knowledge on the topic. Other questions to ask when you're trying to establish authority include, how can I find out more about the author? Oftentimes, a good credible website will include contact information for the author or a brief biography or other ways that you can learn more about the author, such as other published papers they have written, sometimes even with a link to those papers. Now let's look at the B in the word cable. B stands for bias. Questions you want to ask to determine bias include, what does the author say is the purpose of the website? So is it clear that the author is trying to persuade you of something? Or are they just presenting information without a personal opinion? Is the site objective, or does it present only one point of view? So let's look at bias. Ask yourself, what is the purpose of the website? And is the site objective or only one point of view? You want to, especially when you're researching for a research paper or a lab report or a speech or other presentation, if you're simply trying to find some background information to better understand the topic, you're going to want to start looking for definitions, historical information, and context. And that kind of information should be objective. It should provide you with accurate facts about the topic. So if you're reading a website and it feels like only one point of view is being presented, so it's the information is very much skewed in one direction, then you may want to use a different website. The L in cable stands for level. Questions you want to ask to determine the level include, how useful is this information for your purpose? Does it cover your subject in enough depth? Do you feel comfortable citing this page in a college level assignment? When we think about level, we want to think about whether this web resource is appropriate, whether it is written for the intended audience of the paper or speech or other project you are researching on. If you find a website that seems extremely advanced and is talking about very complex and specialized content, that may be very interesting, but it may not necessarily be appropriate for introducing this as a brand new topic to readers who may not yet be familiar with the general content of the topic. On the other hand, if you find a web resource with information that seems very elementary and not quite up to the college level, then you also may not want to use that site because that's not necessarily meant for a college level audience. Next, let's look at the E in cable. And the E in cable stands for explore. Questions to ask include, where does the site's information come from? So did they cite their sources? Where did the site's information come from? Is this a scholarly or popular resource? When you're exploring a site, you want to consider, did they cite their sources? Did they provide a reference or works cited page? Did they provide links and notes to where they received their information from? When you're thinking about whether a source is popular or scholarly, there are other questions to ask. A popular source is going to be something that has not necessarily been closely verified to ensure that all information is accurate. So a popular source is something that's meant to entertain or to briefly inform on a very broad level. A scholarly source, on the other hand, is a source that is written by an expert or group of experts on the topic. They may be considered experts because they have advanced degrees, such as masters, doctorates in the topic, or they may have been in this field for quite a long time and are recognized for their content knowledge. Other questions to ask when you're evaluating an online site and using the cable method include, can you verify the information on the site? A good, credible source will cite where they got their information from. If you're reading a website and the information feels too good to be true and they did not verify where they got their information from, chances are this website is too good to be true. You will always want to make sure that the sites you're using are signaling where they got their information from. Other questions to ask include, are there references or links to other sites? Oftentimes, a good, trustworthy source will include their references at the end of the page, or they will include their references on a works cited entry at the bottom of the page, or references. These may be hyperlinked, or these may just include the website or title of the journal or date of the interview where the information was gleaned. So do feel free to visit the Research Process LibGuide. You can access it anytime you'd like from the library homepage. Again, by going left-hand side Research, clicking on Library Research Guides, and then click on All Guides, and then go down to R for Research Process. You can also browse subject-specific guides as you're thinking about finding information on the internet about your topic and you want to know what kinds of questions should I be asking before that. Alrighty, so we want to apply the cable method whenever visiting another website to ensure that we are utilizing information from a trustworthy source. Another helpful tip to consider when you're evaluating web resources or evaluating any resource outside of the library homepage is thinking about where the information came from. Specifically, when we're thinking about websites, we can look at the web address, look at the domain, and look at the end of the end of the website name. For example, if you go to hancockcollege.edu, it ends with a .edu. Oopsie daisy. .edu symbolizes or tells us that this is an educational website or a website of an organization that is closely affiliated with an educational institution. Oftentimes, if a website ends with .edu, it means that it is expected to have a certain level of credibility attached to it because an organization whose reputation would be connected to it would be interested in hosting accurate information. Now, of course, there are some exceptions, including how students can have personal websites attached to their student email addresses that end in .edu, or other affiliates may have personal websites that end in .edu, which you still want to verify the content of. Other websites, other domain names, that you may want to consider when you're looking at a web address include .gov, which is short for a government website. If something ends in .gov, it's a good bet that this is an organization that is credible and is closely affiliated with some significant governing body, such as relating to your topic. So if you're interested in thinking about organic farming relating to the environment, you may want to look at the EPA.gov, Environmental Protection Agency, Food and Agriculture Administration, California-specific entities, and much more. So you want to look up regulating bodies. Another web address is .com. This is short for commercial. Anyone can start a commercial website. So if you're looking at information on a .com website, you want to definitely ask questions that we saw on the cable method. So who created this? Where did they get their information from? What is their credibility level? And much more. How are they an expert on this topic? Other web addresses to consider include the domain .org, that is short for organization. So there are some very credible organizational websites, and there are also some .org websites that are not credible. So it's all about asking questions. There are other domain names or other ending parts of the URL that you may want to look at. You may see including .net. So this is going to be similar to .com. Let's look at a quick video on something called lateral reading. Lateral reading is another tool that you can use when you are evaluating other resources, specifically web resources. Lateral reading refers to the process of simultaneously reading a website and then opening up new tabs and doing research on the website as you're reading it to confirm that this source is accurate. Okay.
We live in an era of information overabundance. This demands that we be more discerning. Instead of accepting information overabundance, this demands that we be more discerning. Instead of accepting information at face value, we should always ask this one important question: who's behind the information? The Stanford History Education Group conducted a study with Stanford undergraduates, professors from 4 different universities, and professional fact-checkers to determine the most effective methods for evaluating digital information. there were dramatic differences in how intelligent people looked at the web. Many smart undergrads and esteemed professors evaluated a site by reading vertically, staying on the site and reading it as if it were a printed document. They focused on the site's look, its aesthetics, graphics, and overall appearance. They were deceived by an official-looking logo or the name of the organization. They attributed importance to the .org in the URL without realizing that .org is an open domain. Any individual or group can buy a .org domain without passing a character test or proving they're working for social betterment. They examined scholarly references and research reports without realizing that, unlike an academic journal, on the web, anything goes. Intelligent people, equipped with critical thinking skills, were often taken in by slick web pages. Professional fact-checkers approach the web differently. They understood that on the web, what you see is often not what you get. The web is treacherous territory, and you can't let your eyes deceive you. Landing on an unfamiliar site, they didn't waste precious time engaged in close reading. Instead, they opened new tabs in their browser and read laterally. Rather than spending time on a site like the Employment Policies Institute, they turned to the broader web. They clicked on a New York Times article about the Employment Policies Institute entitled, "Fight Over Minimum Wage Illustrates Web of Industry Ties." They scanned the Wikipedia entry, which describes the institute as a fiscally conservative think tank particularly aimed towards reducing the minimum wage. Its staff worked for a public affairs firm owned by Richard Berman. A search for Richard Berman leads to a 60 Minutes report which labels Berman as Dr. Evil for his use of nonprofit front groups that advocate on behalf of his corporate clients. Only 40% of bright Stanford students were able to make the link to Berman. 100% of the fact-checkers did, often in a fraction of the time. Lateral reading was the reason why. Our research studies have shown that lateral reading can be taught. Students in classes that completed civic online reasoning lessons significantly increased their ability to accurately judge websites compared to a control group. Lateral reading stands in sharp contrast to many methods for teaching digital literacy. These methods focus on long checklists of questions and keep students' eyes on a single site before they've even established that the site is worth their time. Although the basic idea of lateral reading is simple, becoming skilled at it takes practice. Students need to see examples of lateral reading and practice it with a range of sources. They also need to know when they've found a reliable news source or one that's known for conspiracy theories. Lateral reading helps students to find better information online and to become informed and more thoughtful members of society.
There is so much information available now for nearly any topic that you want to research. This makes it very exciting to approach research. And because there's so much information, it is a wonderful option to talk to a librarian anytime you're beginning your research process or revising and coming back and need more information. You can use the cable method to evaluate web resources and to consider, is this information credible and will it help me to broaden my base of knowledge on this topic? Please come and talk to us anytime about the research process. I hope you found this workshop helpful. Have a wonderful day.